this with fires surrounding me.
Yeah, how do you even begin to put that out?
Absolutely scary thing.
It's really scary, and this is very odd timing for this type of event. This is not the fire season typically in California, and here's proof of that. You look at this is a histogram here of the rainfall per month in a place like Los Angeles. December, January, and February are the wettest months. That's 90% of the precipitation should be starting to come here in this area, and we're not getting any in the next couple of days.
And we've heard from Jay that people are, you know, they saw what happened in October, and I think for some probably said, oh, I'm glad we've made it past the fire season, but it just keeps going because of the way the pattern's set up.
Yeah, it's a really scary reality, honestly, that's playing, because we're seeing the effect of these seasons kind of bleeding over onto each other. This ridge that's setting up over the western part of the country is not going to be budging anytime soon. You look at this pattern, and it's just very persistent. Warm temperatures coming in, that high pressure locked in place in the lower levels. All of the storms are riding north of that ridge, so no rain to come for the foreseeable future, not only for California, but for other areas in the Southwest as well. So this dry pattern is going to keep going.
And it's a pattern that has garnered a nickname, and you and Mike are going to talk a little bit more about this.
Yes.
So it was 2 years ago, I remember, we talked about the ridiculously resilient ridge across the West. Then last year, we ended up getting tons of precip, and we never thought that would happen. It's back now, but it's having dire consequences. We saw with the wildfires.
Yeah, and it's honestly not just the wildfires, too. These resilient ridges can cause extreme weather in many parts, and we're seeing that on the East Coast now with the snow that's coming into play.
How does a ridge form in the West? How does it get stuck there?
Yeah, so there are many factors that can contribute to the forming of a ridge. These are large-scale patterns, and they have influences all around the climate. But one really big correlation is the ocean temperatures here in the Pacific Ocean. There's also a lot of thunderstorm activity that goes on here. So depending on what's happening, that can often create a wave pattern that causes a ridge over the western part of the country. When you get one that's really high amplitude, notice I've drawn this really big. That's what we're experiencing right now. These are very hard to move. That's why they're called ridiculously resilient, because they will bring the same conditions here for days, potentially weeks, and it takes a really strong push from the jet stream to move them out of the way.
And every time you get a shot maybe of a little storm system, it doesn't want to push through this. It just rides along it.
It rides up and over the ridge, so all that wet weather precipitation is heading off towards the Gulf of Alaska, essentially. Not even Seattle and Portland is going to get in on this activity here in the coming days. So this ridge might be sticking around for a couple of weeks. And unfortunately, Mike, you mentioned this is something that we saw in the past. It's coming back.
It's not unusual to have this pattern in the summer across the West. It's a little unusual to have it during what's considered the rainy season in California.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of studies now are mentioning that the pattern, the trend of these ridges is increasing in that manner, where we're seeing them persist for longer periods of time and out of season.
Do you think that means then, and maybe we're seeing it play out this year, the fire season?
It's going to stick and cause a lot of problems, but be careful. You know, a couple flakes falling across some of these areas when people are on the roads can cause problems.
Southerners tend to freak out. It's just what we do.
Hedge as much as possible.
Well, there you have it. So thanks for voting. And always, we post polls every day on Twitter, by the way. So always cast your vote, because we want to know what you're thinking, too. We want you to be a part of the show.
Absolutely. By the way, real quick question. Do we have time for a quick question or no? All right.
We'll have more on that tomorrow, BTW, by the way. For all of us here at Weather Underground, thanks for watching.
Hey, remember...